Good morning, Sydney. It is gosh, what is the time here? Well, it's 5:46 in Australia and it's about
AM.
8 a.m. Thank you so much, Maya, for reminding me that I really love my job. And we're speaking to the beautiful Maya Jupiter all the way in LA. But it's approaching 1 p.m. for you, I believe, on
Yeah,
your end.
I'm
Welcome
just can't believe that you are up this early.
for
Thanks
you,
for
my
being
love.
up.
For you. It's been a really interesting journey to start this series, right? Because obviously this is the next installment for or since the book She is Empowered is released. This is the She is Empowered interview series where I get a chance to have intimate conversations with some of the brilliant women that were featured in this book. So you are one of the brilliant women that were featured in the book. There's 29 amazing ladies in this book, and it wouldn't have felt right if you weren't involved. So I thank you for your time and for wanting to be involved in this project. How have you been, my love? You look radiant. You look well. It looks very
Thank you.
LA. Even though we're in a
It's
box, we look very LA. You
it's
really
the Zoom filter. No.
are. I
I'm
need
doing
that
really
filter.
well. I'm doing really well, thank you. I know we've been in this box for a very long time with
It's
the
yeah,
COVID rates in Los Angeles,
man.
have been crazy. It's been quite an adjustment, but all in all, I think, I'm doing well. Like
Yeah,
definitely created a nice bubble for my family and
good.
not allowing it to affect us
Yeah.
in a huge way mentally.
Absolutely. And
But
that's really
just
hard
yeah,
not to do because as we were speaking off
with
camera
everything
before, yeah.
with everything going on, also, the amount of police brutality cases that we're
Mm,
seeing, the police murders and the uprising, the protests that we're having. I mean, it's just a lot.
yeah.
It's a lot to take on. Every day there's multiple mass shootings going on, and there's Asian American hate
Oh,
crimes, and it's just like it can be a lot. So you have to really be conscious about creating space for yourself to
oh,
separate a little bit when you can, if you have the privilege of doing so,
yeah.
to get offline for a little bit and not allow it to, for me, who is someone who's extremely empathetic, I'm very sensitive, so it will affect me. It will bring me
Oh,
right down.
I was
So
just
it's
about
like,
to
so
ask
just,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that because being an empath myself and seeing the images and reading online every day, we get up and yet another person has been shot, yet another person has been killed, or, you know, justice hasn't been
Children.
served. The children, it's just, and I'm, millions of miles away from the country that this is all happening in. It still affects you,
Yeah.
it affects you as a culture. It affects you as just a human being with feelings and emotions, and having to then sort of strip it back and talk to your family, obviously knowing my family is half American as well. So then having to explain to the kids the images they see on the news and not always wanting them around when something happens, but it's constantly being spoken about. So it's a lot for us to deal with. It really, really is as human beings. I mean, obviously you've just said that you make sure that you take time to have self-care. But living in the country, dare I say it, city that a lot of these issues arise, and you're around it so much. How do you step away from being consumed in it all the time? And you're a person who is actively involved in the community in raising awareness and
Yeah.
performing, using your musical ability to call for positivity and for empowerment. How do you maintain self-care living in that environment, Maya?
Yeah. It's difficult, but I would say number one is we don't have the news on at home. We
Yeah,
don't have the television on, period, in the house when the
right.
kids are around. And we don't, yeah, so we don't have the news radio, we don't have the television, and I don't watch it. So a lot of my information comes from online, like looking at my Instagram feed or really being in touch with local organizations. So every 2 weeks, I'm on a call with a movement called Schools Not Prisons. They're
Okay.
about to launch Homes Not Prisons, which is going to be an 18-month activation. And it's a gathering of all, they are community organizers who are basically empowering artists and people, who have platforms or who are in the artistic
Right.
creative community, and really just educating us on all the issues that exist, and also inviting us to be a part and to participate in the activations. So that
Wow.
could be a concert, or it could be back when we were having our election, like, creating videos to
Yes.
motivate people to vote, because uh,
Mm,
it's not mandatory here, which is
yeah.
crazy
It
coming
is
from Australia. It's like,
crazy. Crazy.
so, but that kind of stuff, being connected to that group, has been really awesome, because, it's so easy to lose sight of hope,
Yeah.
and lose sight of the light that exists amongst so much darkness all the time, when you really get into it and really learn about everything that's happening. I mean, it's like, this is such a monster of a mess,
Yeah.
and it's such a beast of a system. How could we ever, you
Yeah.
know, end it?
Yeah.
And, I really am hopeful, because I'm part of these conversations and these circles where people are reimagining public safety. And actually, there's this very strong movement to defund the police. And
Yes.
it does feel like it can happen, because we've seen progress. Like, we had a district attorney, Jackie Lacey, who was terrible, who would never prosecute any cops that have murdered countless, hundreds of people in LA. And every single Wednesday, Dr. Melina Abdullah, she's one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter LA. She would organize a protest in front of her offices every single Wednesday for like 2 years
Wow.
straight. Jackie Lacey must go. Eventually, the election came up. We voted her out. We voted George Gascon in, who is very progressive, very in line with BLM's vision for
Right.
what LA should look like. And so, just even seeing that shift happen, it's like, it might be slow, but little victories are happening. And
Absolutely.
so we have to keep focus on, okay, this is what the problems are,
Yeah.
but there are pathways to making change, and to be, persistent,
Yeah.
and stay vigilant always. And
All the time.
that's the movement. But I definitely separate, my children are 7 and 5 years old. I have a daughter and a son,
Yeah.
and this is not something that I want them carrying on their shoulders. This is not their
Absolutely.
burden. I feel like at this age, a child, especially children of color, especially Black
Oh,
children, they deserve the right to a childhood. They
yes.
deserve to just, to feel that the world is a loving, safe space. And that's because their world really is, right? And
Yeah.
so that's
Absolutely.
what I'm trying to create for them. But at the same time, my husband and I are very active in the movement, and understand that, that when the time comes, like, they're being told things in an age appropriate way, and
Yes.
they will be involved, and they will be fighting with us. We know that they will. I mean, they see it in who we are. And I
That's
think,
right.
at the end of the day, that's the thing. It's like, it's not really matter what I say, but they're watching us. They're watching me perform. They know my songs. They
Absolutely.
see it in our actions. And
Mm.
so we're sort of towing that line. So it's hard, but just creating that space for them, but then also staying involved myself,
Yeah.
and just day by day, just got to take it day by day.
You
That's it.
really do, and it's also just wearing those two hats. Like you're a parent first, and then you're the activist performer after that as well. So being able to meander between those two spaces and to do it in a safe manner is all you can really do at this particular point in time. And I take my hat off to both of you for doing that and creating that safe space, because it is, I mean, especially for children of color, excuse me, looking at where we are here in Australia, and obviously all that we really got to go off to get the information is, again, watching the news here, social media, yeah, but you can also you can overconsume everything on social media, and I tend to do that a lot. There's this, that whole thing about grief porn, you tend to
Yeah,
watch too much, and that trauma, being the empath that I am, I sometimes do carry it. And my kids are, well, the little one, I mean, he's 4, he doesn't understand, so he's okay. But my eldest just 12, and he's very aware of things, and
yeah.
asks a lot of questions, and it's a great time for parenting, and parenting the right way. And that can be difficult, because what's right to some people may not be right to others, so
That's it.
it's a
Yeah,
really, yeah, but in your heart what you can and can't tell them, and
that's it.
to explain COVID, and then to explain,
Oh gosh.
police brutality and everything. I think releasing this book probably came at a really good time, because it was just effortless to explain the power and the positivity in the women that are around me, and that my kids
Mm,
do know some of them. They might not know others, but just especially for our kids to see what their mums do and what their mums are about is was a huge push and a huge vehicle for me to create this book. So when it came to yourself, and wanting you involved in it, I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't have thought of anybody more empowering than yourself, because you've been living in that space for as long as I've known you, and you do it effortlessly, and you do it very powerfully as well. So my question to you is, what does empowerment mean to you now than when you first heard the word? Because when we first heard it, you know, we would have been in a whole different kind of space as women, right? And you step into your empowerment at a certain place or point in time. So what does it mean to you now that you're a mother, you're a wife, and you're this brilliant artist and this social activist? But when you first heard the word, how do you feel you wear it now?
how do I feel I wear it? Wow. I feel that and also being a bit of I'm a grown up now. So
Yes, very
being a
adult.
mother, being a grown up, being an adult, I think, just having confidence in myself and the decisions that I make, and really feeling confident enough to voice my opinions without worrying about if I'm going to please everyone or make
Right.
everyone happy, or
Yeah.
because I was definitely, a people pleaser and
Oh,
wanting everyone to love me and all of that stuff. And so you get to a point where you're like, it's fine. Like not everyone
yeah,
has to like me, and that's okay.
yeah,
And it's always, there's always been a North Star. There's always been the bigger picture. And I think that's what, for me, has really guided me, which is, I, I always say, I know I'm not the best rapper. I love hip hop. I love being an active participant in hip hop. I know that I don't have the lyrical skills or of like the lyricists that I love and
right.
adore, like Mos Def, Talib Kweli, like,
Yes,
I try my best, but at the end of the day, it's my heart that's in it, and it's the stories that I want to tell for my
yeah,
community, for my people, for women. It's about the change that I want to see. It's about awareness and advocating for issues that I
yeah,
really believe in, and so it's always about the bigger picture of this, radical social transformation. That's what it's about,
yeah,
and so it doesn't matter. And I've always been that go-getter, right? Just
yeah,
get
you
in where I
have.
fit in however I can. It's like, what can I do?
You
And
sure have.
if shit wasn't working, get in there and fix it. Like, be
That's
it.
right.
And that was essentially, what happened with me with radio and hearing in my early 20s, Australians not ready to hear an Aussie accent
Yeah.
rapping on the radio.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be in radio then. That's what I'll do, and I'll play all the Aussie hip hop I can find. So I've always had love for the Aussie hip hop community and scene, and always wanted to support any which way I could. And at the same time, it's just out of the love for the culture, because that's where I found that I fit in.
Yeah.
So I've totally gone on a tangent, but so what empowers me is having confidence in who I am and what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
And I don't need permission anymore.
I like that. And I think that's so important. And I'm not shocked to hear you say that you were a people pleaser, because I never ever got that vibe of you. To me, it was, you were always in your power. And I think at the time when I met you, that was the heady days of our hip hop, industry rising, right? I don't like saying the word scene, community industry. We'll put it that. Even
I
though
agree.
You know what I say? But I hate, I don't really
community.
Like the word communities.
It's the community, because we would see the same people over and over and over again.
Right.
How many times I went to a club or a event by myself?
Yeah.
I went by myself because I knew I'd have friends there.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
I didn't ever, and it wasn't about like that. I didn't need that. I was just like, nah, I'm here for the music, and I know I'll see some friends, or I'll make some.
That's it. It was always a safe sort of space to step into. It wasn't larger than life, even though I know a few people tried to make it like that or act as if it was. Oh, yeah, it really wasn't. Let's just say what it is. Community, we're good. But every time I'd see you in that space, you were always in your power. You're always authentic. And the consistency of who you are has remained. It's gotten a lot stronger, obviously, with maturity, with motherhood, and all those things thrown in. So to hear you say a people pleaser, I never got that from you, ever.
I think probably more in my personal life.
Gotcha.
Rather than Maya Jupiter, the powerful.
That's it. Because it is, right? It is. We would wear those capes, right? So it was Maxine, right? Or then Miss Hennessy, and it was
Miss Hennessy.
Like my husband today still says, he's like, you've got to take this Hennessy off and be Maxine. I go, the two are the same right now. Like at this age, we're one and the same, okay? Like there's no taking off of cape or wearing. I think you need to be holistically who you are.
That's
by
it.
the time you reach this age. So I think we've done that well. But really, really interesting to hear you say that. But moving on from that, right? So watching what you do in the US, you've made it seem quite seamless. Leaving Australia to continue your journey as not only a recording artist but a performing artist, but also then taking on a lot more on the social sort of political aspect. Did you ever think that would be the path that you would take from like leaving Australia to then moving to the US, obviously with your family, and being so involved in what's happening in the US? Do you feel that there's a counterpoint for you with what's happening here in Australia too?
Yeah, I think I never knew that I would live here this long. Like before I even met Aloe, I was in my mind, I was like, I would love to do like 1 year in New York, like just spend a year in New York City and just live that life and just see what that's like and then come home. And Aloe and I dated for a year, long distance, before the decision was made. And he was like, well, I can come to Sydney. And I was like, do you like your career? Do you like singing soul music?
Seriously. Great conversation to have before making that joke. Hello.
Because I could just see it. Like I could see, he had just released Shine Through. He was an independent artist. He was an underground artist. And, as an underground artist, you survive on touring, and he was touring Europe and he was touring the States and, doing collaborations here and there, like being like paid sessions, but it was definitely like project to project. And, you don't like people, Australians go to LA to like make it, right? It's like
Mhm.
Americans don't come to Australia
Yeah, it doesn't really work the other way around.
to be an R&B, singer.
I love
So I was like, look, because I thought I don't want him to come resent me and then the whole thing fall apart.
That's right.
So I said, look, let me go there because I always thought, well, I wanted to leave for a year anyway, so let me try it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
We eventually get married, we have children. He gets signed to Universal. He has a hit with I Need a Dollar, and then
Oh man, and that is like one of the biggest songs here in Australia. So it probably could have worked, but maybe the process sort of
it could have.
the
But it wouldn't have happened. It never would have been made because he made that in New York. His label, Stone's Throw, sent him over to New York to work with Truth and Soul. Anyway, enough about him. It's about me.
That's it. Please. Thank you. Focus back on you.
So anyway, I have to say, so once I moved over, within 3 months, I was already recording my album, my first album that I made here. So I moved over in April, and I have a friend who I met this guy, Harvey. He used to go by DJ Bean from a band called Aslan Underground. They're a Chicano rock rap hip hop band from LA, from East LA. And they played at a festival, at an Indigenous music festival in Adelaide in the early 2000s. I want to say 2001.
Right.
And MC Trey got booked to do that festival. She was going over with Nick Toth and invited me to come, to help, like as a, just to do like backing vocals or whatever. And she let me do a couple of songs at the beginning of her set. This was before we were Foreign Heights.
Oh my
gosh. And we used to always help each other out on our sets. Like we'd come help with the choruses or do a verse here and there or whatever.
So dope, yeah.
So yeah, because we were already, facilitating songwriting workshops, hip hop songwriting workshops together since the early 2000s.
You guys are amazing.
She invited me to go. I meet Aslan Underground. I'm like, oh my God, like I've never even heard of, I didn't meet other Mexican people in Australia.
Absolutely.
So to see what they did and to represent their Indigenous culture, as well as like, it's not just Mexican pride, it's Indigenous pride, was so beautiful. It's what I had been longing for so long, to connect with that part of my ancestry. And so, they get off stage and we meet. They had seen me perform and they were like, "You're Mexican?" They're like, "What's a Mexican doing in Australia?" And it was this mutual awe of just like, oh my gosh. So Harvey stayed in touch, their DJ stayed in touch with me. He used to always send me CDs through the mail of like bands and artists from LA. And he reached out to me on MySpace at one point, was like, what are your plans, when you get to LA? And I said, I really want to record an album, the album I've always wanted to make, but I've never made. And he put me in touch with Tumex first, who's he's an MC, he's a producer. He's really a legend in the local LA underground scene, And so I went and visited him, and he's dope, his beats are dope. But what I wanted to do was really extend past beats and work with musicians and do like incorporate traditional rhythms. So that's when I met the two people that produced my album, who is now Dr. Marta Gonzalez and her husband, Quetzal Flores. And through them, because they are such highly respected members of the Chicana community here in LA, and just, over 20 years of musicianship, recorded albums, they're community organizers. They're just, an incredible couple of people.
It sounds amazing.
Yeah. So I landed, and by June we were already having our jam sessions. So I really hit the ground running. And actually I was looking in my calendar to see about, what exact date I had arrived, because my anniversary is April. And hold on one second. I can hear the front door, and I don't want it to disturb. And I think a month after I landed in LA, I had to go back to Australia, to Townsville, because we were doing the Survival Tactics HipHop show, and we had a run that Morganics had created.
Yep.
And I was in that, and we had a run in Townsville. So I was like, oh, wow, I totally forgot that I did that. So I really hit the ground running, started on the record, and then just really planted my my roots here, because it was really important for me to find, I've always wanted to connect with the, you know, Mexican American, also known as Chicano, Chicana, or Chicanx now community. And also important to have my own friends and circles,
absolutely,
apart from my husband, because that provides an issue, right? And you've experienced that too.
Absolutely, you have to assimilate as best you can. And I find so many similarities hearing your story with obviously being the one who moved, because obviously both of us, you know, we're both married to Americans. I'm not married to a famous one, neither am I married to a recording artist, but married to the military, and that presents a whole different set of experiences. And you know, it has been very interesting, to say the least. I think we lost you. Are you there? Did you hear me? Oh no, where are you? So
did
like
you get the recording?
I did. I got the recording from before. I paused it when we were having issues, so hopefully it's okay. But like I was saying, yeah, like you and I have obviously, you know, been through similar things. You know, dating them in the beginning at long distance. It's been the bane of my existence. But I've always said it's just a matter of geography. If it's meant to work out, you just have to really get that communication down pat. But I have to agree with you in saying the importance of assimilating and finding your own grounding, because you become too reliant on the partner and the pressures that can provide. I have to say the sensitivity goes to my husband, being that he's the one that's moved here officially now. And in the beginning, it was difficult, you know, stepping out of that military world. It's like a world unlike you've ever stepped into. It's its own universe. So we had a lot of teething problems, huge. You know, he had to meet people here that, you know, he would be able to connect with. But at the same time, too, a lot of the guys here and the expat Americans, not a lot of them are ex-military either. So, you know, it's taken a while, but because of his love of music, and I guess both of us, you know, our love of music, and being that I'm in the community as much as I'm in, doing a radio show together was a great way to connect and to show him a bit of the world that, you know, I'm involved in and that I love, and also see what skills he has, you know, in terms of his music knowledge, which is huge. It's massive. So, and you've met Jay, and you've seen us in our space with the radio, you know, working on Koori Radio and that sort of thing. So that was brilliant, but it wasn't a forced thing. It was him saying, you know, I think I might do radio with you. What do you think? And just wanting him to be connected in some way, because what I do is such a solo effort, you know, being a DJ, solo effort, being a writer, solo. So, you know, everything had its solo points. But I take my hat off to you for doing what you've done and making it seem so easy, but I know it hasn't been.
And to you too. It is difficult. I think, you know, settling in a new country is hard, and it's challenging, and has specific pressures on relationships. You know, relationships are difficult as it is. You know, marriage is an everyday process. It's a every day we're reaffirming our love. We're going to choose to stay.
I like that. Choose to stay.
Yes. But it adds extra when you're, you know, when you have to pick up and leave, and, you know, leaving family behind and all of that. It's a lot.
Yeah. It is. But here we are, empowered women, changing the world. Do you see your? I know.
Empowered. Sorry, I thought that was a plug. Empowered women.
It was a plug, and you picked it up. See, this is the professionalism, right? This is how we flow. She just picked up that cue. What did you? How did you feel when you saw the book? Because obviously, you know, with a lot of the women, there's only been, I think, there's about 5 of you that are, you know, international that are in the book.
Yeah.
So it took a
I
while for
mean,
you to get it. But how did you feel
the
when you
f-
saw
the
it?
first thing I thought was, oh my gosh, like a reunion. Like just seeing
Absolutely.
so many people that
Yeah,
I know and love, you know. I don't know if you know this, but Dora and I went to school together, went to the same high school.
I had
She was
no
a grade
idea.
under me. Yep, Dora Gutierrez, she was a grade under me,
Wow,
and her sister was a grade above.
that's
And Claudia, the
incredible.
youngest, was
Yes,
even further down. But yeah, I went to school with the three sisters, and
that's incredible, Maya.
yeah, and of course, Empress and I used to run Ashfield together.
Yes, you
Friend,
did.
we lived very close to each other in Ashfield for a few years. Had a
And
lot
now
of
you're
fun.
running the world in separate parts of the world. She's in
I mean,
Jamaica.
just seeing people, you know, just off of the cover and just going, oh wow, just seeing who's involved. Called Weave, one of my best friends, and I mean, look, if I start doing the shout outs, it just won't end. But seeing everybody, that was just like wow. And then now actually diving into everybody's stories in
Yeah,
detail, even people that I've known for 20 plus years, you don't know this about them.
you
You don't
don't.
know everything.
You
And
don't.
so that, you know, starting to read um, about people's stories has been really fascinating. And it's like, wow, you know, like my memories of Tiana, you know, are watching, just being mesmerized by her. She's this incredible dancer, and of
Yeah,
course, she's now have this amazing career in choreographing
yeah,
and dancing, and but she always had that thing. She always had that X factor, whatever that thing
always.
is. Whenever you saw her on stage performing,
Yeah,
you were drawn to her. She's
absolutely.
always had it. We've known each other since we were teenagers.
Yeah,
Um, but I didn't know that she came to Australia, you know, as a in how old was she? About 9 or 10 years
9 or 10.
old, you know,
Yeah,
from South Africa. Like I
yeah.
didn't know that. So, you know, you just learn so much more about
You
each
do.
other in a more meaningful way. And that's what I think has been really beautiful. You've really captured the stories of this amazing group of multicultural women. And I say that because a lot of the times, even in LA, even right now, like you're from Australia, like they can't put their
Mhm.
head around it because Australia has this stereotype of the blonde hair, blue eyed
Thank
surfer
you.
girl. They don't
Absolutely.
realize how diverse we are.
That's
And
it.
it's like not only are we diverse, um, but we also are a lot more, what is the term? Um, in a integrated, like
Mm,
in Australia, you know, when you go to high school and well, at least my high school experience, it was many different cultures and all together, right?
mm.
Here in LA, it's like, you know, the Asian, you know, the
Yeah,
Korean community lives over here, the
yeah.
Mexican community lives here, this is the black neighborhood. It's
The
very,
segregation.
very segregated,
Mm.
and people stick, they
Together.
follow in, you know what I'm saying?
Yep,
So
yep.
it's, even though it is quite a huge diverse city, it's still not necessarily people's experiences. Like,
Yeah.
I guess stepping outside of like music, R&B, hip hop industry, of course we know hip hop, in, you know, everybody
Yes.
is drawn to that. But just in terms of like the average American that you
Yeah.
meet, you know what I mean? Like,
I feel you. I totally feel
yeah,
you. And I'm
they're not
so
as
glad
so.
that you put upon the diversity of the book, because that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to create a book like this. Outside of obviously the obvious fact of the power of the message, and women who in my circle that I've known for so many years, varying levels, you know, varying levels. All of your stories are so empowering and so important and so necessary that I felt, and also I think also being an entertainment journalist, and I've been that for so many years, you can only write on so many celebrities, right? You can only share so many celebrity stories after it becomes a little cumbersome after a while, okay? And as a writer, you want to stretch yourself. And I'm always looking for new challenges and always looking for new authentic stories and
Mm.
truths. And where else to kind of go than my own community, my own backyard. And the women that were in this book not only encapsulated empowerment, but it was just the raw truths that you all trusted me with. And I say this with a few of the interviews that I've done in this capacity. I'm still floored by the trust that everybody showed towards me with their stories, because it's intimate. It's a vulnerability that you share when you choose to be involved in a project like this. So that would be my biggest gift from you all, would have been your trust, and I took that on with kid gloves. I tell you, it was not lost on me. So I just loved hearing that was one of the components you got out of it, was the highlight of diversity, because that is so important.
Yeah.
And was so important to me. And again,
And,
living in this
but
country, you don't see enough of it. A book cover like that, you don't see enough of it.
you don't. And also, I feel like, what is in fact empowering is telling our stories. So just having this space and
Yeah,
this compilation and this platform, like, this is a physical thing, you know what I mean, that's
yeah,
published, that exists in the world now. This is an archive, this is our stories in print.
thank you.
That, you know what I'm saying, like,
Yeah,
that is huge. To do that for all of us women, like, that's just, I'm just so full of gratitude for that, and it's a wonderful offering for our
thank you.
community and for our sisterhood. So I just want to honor you in that way for doing this, because if you don't do it, who would have done this? Like, no one would have done this. So I
Yeah, thank you.
appreciate that you put the time and energy into telling our stories.
Yeah, no, it was an absolute honor. It was an absolute honor, and it's opened up a whole new sort of caveat for me now with my writing journey. And I'm working on a follow up to that, and I'm hoping to make a new offering every year, under a different
Yeah.
banner, because there's so many women out there, so many that I'm blessed to know, and some that I'm not, and I really want to meet the ones I don't know and see what their stories are, and have again that beautiful canvas of diversity, that a woman that looks like me or a woman that looks like you can look at that cover and go, this is me. These are my stories. I know I might not know that lady personally, but wow, we kind of look alike, or wow, I can relate to
Yeah.
that. I was so tired, Maya, of picking up books and reading about these brilliant women out there, but I couldn't relate to them. Just because we're
Mm,
women don't mean we're all the same.
yeah.
We're different. A lot, everyone, we mother differently. We love differently. We care for ourselves differently. And I think all too often, sometimes media used to, because it's now changed, right? We're change agents. I like to think of myself as that. I love that term. And in order to make the world a better and a different place for our kids, you got to be be brave enough to step out and do something that hasn't been done. And the acceptance of this book says a lot to me, that it was overdue. So I'm really glad that it's been received like that, especially by somebody like yourself, because you're all about diversity, you're all about moving forward and change. So, and you've been a really great supporter of me and my writing for many years. So thank you.
Pleasure. Can I
Thank
ask you
you.
some questions
Yes,
now?
you may now. I'm done.
What have you loved most about your career?
There's been different components to it, but I would have to say just the evolution of me. Um, Listening to you talk about your career, I can feel a lot of similarities in, especially where you've said, you know, um, in the beginning, um, you were a people pleaser in the beginning, but you're talking about Maya personally. I think for me, for Maxine and for Miss Hennessy, I was a people pleaser in both those roles. And being a people pleaser professionally can be very exhausting. Outside of a personal, experience, professionally, I used to say things just, I guess, to get the experience, and I used to probably not do myself a justice by, taking less money. Sometimes not even being paid at all to write,
Mm.
being paid in CDs, right? Back in the day, do a review of the CD, right? Or do a
But
review
CDs are $30, so
CDs.
that's a lot.
I could sort of, balance that one off because I was on radio too, so it added to my music collection. But we can't pay you, but we'll give you entry to this club or those sorts of things. And you do those things to get
Mm.
experience and whatnot. But there came a point, I think, when I sort of hit a couple of years doing what I was doing, and I was still being offered that. And I thought, wow, I'd really raised the bar too low on myself. And stepping off that kind of wanting to please everybody and starting to please myself was probably the greatest gift I could have given myself professionally. And once I did that, I saw a whole different elevation of myself within this community. So looking at myself as a radio DJ, as a club DJ, and then with the writing component to it, there's three different facets, but they all culminate into the same thing, and it's information sharing, and it's the passion that I have for what I
Yeah.
do. So I'm really proud of my career and what I've done to date, and what's coming is probably. I know I shouldn't look to the future too much and really enjoy the present, but I'm really proud. I can say that now without trepidation. Before I used to feel, oh yeah, whatever's, it is what it is. No, I'm okay to stop and smell the flowers and go, yeah,
Right.
I did that, and I'm gonna do
That's
more.
important.
It's so important. It's so important. And I don't know if it's an Australian thing or if it's a woman thing to just be like, yep, okay, yep,
It's
thanks.
both.
I think it is. And
It's
I
the double
hate it.
whammy.
Oh, I hate it, right? So I've had to really force myself to sit and receive my flowers, as they say, and also smell
Yeah.
them. So yeah, I'm proud.
There's definitely a middle ground between, like, because, being in America, oh gosh, like, don't be humble at all. It's the
No,
complete opposite. Like, I'm so great. Do you know what I
seriously,
do? And no, la, la, la. And
it
it's like,
is.
you can't take the piss out of yourself or anyone else because people are very sensitive, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, yeah,
Even yourself, they think you have confidence issues. But there's definitely a happy medium. I feel like, Australia, and there's Hawaii, right?
yeah.
Australia
It's
and America's styles can meet in the middle, and
yeah,
can be like, look, it's okay to have a little bit of like, yeah, I'm proud
yeah,
of myself, I did that.
yeah.
you know there's a nice middle
There
ground.
is.
I have another question.
Yes.
What have been the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome? Just, I would say, in all, if you could just, I know you're
Yes.
multidisciplinary. I don't know what the word is.
Multidisciplinary. I
Discipline.
know what you're saying.
Multidisciplinarian.
Yeah.
But just, what are some of the biggest challenges, maybe in writing and putting together this book,
Yeah,
or
absolutely. I think the biggest challenge for me was doubt, and it's always been a
wow.
crippling. I suffer with anxiety, terrible anxiety, and yeah, Mira and I, funnily enough, spoke about, it, and I was floored that she shared the same sort of viewpoint with performance anxiety. And for me, it's not it's not just performance anxiety, but it's anxiety in general, and I've had it ever since I think I was probably a teenager. And it came from, years of being bullied severely in high school. And I think I got
Oh
it. And
gosh.
also being an immigrant to this country and then trying to assimilate and then being bullied in school and knowing I was different, but being made to feel even worse because I was. So it was a lot of that sort of stuff, which I'm sure a lot of people have those stories, but it really stayed with me for a long time. So as an adult with anxiety, wanting to work in an industry that has no room for that. Yet, when you realize so many people are suffering with depression, anxiety, and all those kinds of
Yeah.
things behind the scenes, I'm only now starting to go, wow, I speak out more about it now than I did before. Um, but again, writing is such a vulnerable journey. And when you're writing on behalf of others, the toll that takes on an anxiety or on an anxious soul can be quite taxing. So I had to, when I came up with the idea, I had to sit and marinate on it for a while and breathe truth and life into it and tell myself that if you get a yes, go for it. If you get a no, it's not the end of the world. That person's just not ready to share their story, and don't take it personally. And the resounding yeses I got from all of the women, bar maybe 4 or 5, when I totally understand they weren't ready to share their stories, I took that as a major doubt killer. And it was a sign that I had to push forward. And the trust, like I said, that you showed me helped to squash that doubt and that anxious feeling. But yeah, doubt, definitely biggest challenge for me. As a writer, I'm always played with that first off. Starting or creating the imprint, like the MHP, my own imprint, my own publishing imprint, I don't even want to tell you the amount of anxiety I had around that. What if it fails? What if this doesn't work? Oh my God, I'm going to be a laughing stock, like all that kind of stuff. But I just woke up one morning going, I can't let anybody else design this narrative. I will not allow that to happen to me again for what happened to my last book. I have to create this, and I want these women's voices to be heard the right way. So it was just, it was a lot of that, but I was able to squash it one day at a time. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing practice too.
Really?
Like it's so crazy. I wish I could go back to my, 20-year-old self, all the confidence I had when I would write a song. I'd be like, yep, that's great. That's awesome. And I would just record it, within 5 minutes of writing it. And it was like not a big deal. And these days I labor over lyrics because of doubt, because of self-doubt. I'm not good enough. I can say it better. No one's going to like it, like, why?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like, why? I know and I have to think, it's not like I'm trying to be a pop artist at 42 years old. I'm not competing against Cardi B. Like, that's not why I'm making the music. So just get in there and just shove that doubt aside and just do it, because
it's crazy. It's a crazy thing.
Yeah. It needs to be said, and hopefully once it's released, it'll fall on the ears that need to hear it, and that's
it. Absolutely. And I mean, look, the same way I look at you with what you do, your creativity and your message and your passion, it's all aligned. It's all authentic. It's all purposeful stuff. And I think that's all that matters at the end of the day. Is it going to make somebody look at their lives through a different lens, and will it bring joy and purpose to someone? And I think if I can't say a yes to that, then I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to align myself with things just for a check at the end of the day, especially coming out of COVID. People are saying yes, left and right now, especially the DJ community. Like, yeah, I'll DJ 5 hours for $50. Are you nuts? I don't think so. Like, hello, we need to start really owning our worth. And, I understand we're all trying to get back up again, but there's reasons why we've been in this for a long time, and so that's just that's it. But
one day at a time.
That's it.
One day at a time. I like when you said that. And look at us, all grown up.
All grown up, right? All grown up, multitasking, raising kids, just doing all these things. But it's all that purposeful living stuff, Maya. I remember you and I did a show together in Melbourne. And I think it was years ago, right? It was our first thing. It was our first gig. So you were emceeing, and I was DJing. I don't know how that came about. God, that was wonderful. And we were in
where was it? Which club was it again?
It was some pub out. It was outside of Melbourne too. I don't even know.
Okay.
It was on the outskirts, Albury or something. And I think we flew back to Sydney together. And the conversation you and I had stayed with me for years, because I really got to know you. Not the artist, but you person. And I think our friendship was solidified in that moment. Because as artists, or as performing people, we look at each other through different lenses, right? It's but when you get to know the person, I was just like, man, this chick is dope. Like, she's just, there's layers to you, and there's depth and there's warmth. And I don't think a lot of the time people take the time to get to know us for those layers, because our community is so small and everybody's trying to scramble to get to wherever they need to get to. It's just nice to be able to still have these connections years later. So, but I never forgot that moment, and I was like, I just worked with Maya Jupiter. That's great, and I got a friend.
I remember you covering my album in 3D World. What was it? Urban Bass, or what was it called?
Home base.
Home Base.
Yeah.
The urban section of 3D World.
I was a celebration writer.
Where all the people of color go. No.
It was just that little corner in the room, right? It's like that little corner where all the black people at. Like, just put them over
Or just, you would always show me love, and and I just was so grateful for that, like, because it was hard to get press and promotion, and
it really was,
especially the early 2000s.
Absolutely. And you know what, you think back and you look at all the talent that we had, and our scene was so fresh. It was just endless possibilities. It's different now. I don't write in that capacity anymore. I think I did my hard yards, and I've got all the copies of 3D World in my garage, right? Jay is constantly going, is it time to clear it? I go, don't you ever touch. That's historic. Don't you ever throw this away. But I
laminate them. Laminate them.
I got to try and do something. You know how people
digitize it.
That's it. But you know how people have like gold plaques and like platinum plaques, and I'm gonna do that with all those newspaper clippings.
Yeah,
because I love them. I love every single one of them. But yeah, I remember that. And you're one of my favorite songs of yours, perhaps. I still love it to this day. I still love it to this day.
That's such a good memory of making that one with Mocha Only. Oh my gosh.
Song.
I remember the beat. I remember
yeah.
I think he even went by JD. He was a producer that worked at Creative Vibe Studio. I was signed to Mother Tongues at that time. And Jimbo.
Yes.
Is his other non-artist name. He was just he was idolizing Jay Dilla at the time.
Right.
So that beat was definitely made like,
has that vibe.
Inspired by Jay Dilla, exactly. Yeah. And so we got, Mocha and I got in the studio and we wrote it. We did 2 songs that day. And that was a song that it's not often that when you just write your verse and then you go, wow, like it just all flows out, and I don't have that feeling often. So when it comes, then oh, this is a good one, because there's other songs it's like I've never played again, like I've recorded, I've never listened to them again in my life, but I listen to Perhaps and I go, oh, that was not bad.
Beautiful. It hits differently. It hits differently. And now that you've said that about that Jay Dilla vibe, it definitely has that real organic sort of hip hop soul feeling. I just love it. I love it. And it's one of my favorite tracks of yours. I mean, outside of all the other things you've done, like with Foreign Heights and all of that, and then your new stuff, because I know the last time I connected with you when you were back in Sydney, we came to the show and we played some of your latest music. And again, musically and lyrically, you've expanded and you've grown so much, because that's what you do. That song, though, is the counterpoint for me. I love it. I love it.
You know what's a funny tidbit about that song is that at the time I was trying to learn how to sing. I was taking singing lessons from. Wow. I'm trying to remember this conga player. I can't remember his name. Has left me right now, but I can see his face. He played congas. He was teaching me to sing in Spanish. Wow. So the song I was learning over and over was quizás, quizás, quizás.
And then perhaps.
And so then I was like, perhaps. And so that's where the inspiration came from.
It worked well. Because it was in my head. It was that repetitive, perhaps. I love it. It's so good. It's so good. Well, my love, thank you so much. It really is. It's good memories, and there'll be more to come. But thank you for your time today, and thank you for your time always. I know you're a busy woman, and being on the other side of the world, it just means a lot that, your support is always felt and your presence is always felt, even though you're not here. But I can't wait to reconnect with you and hopefully see everybody soon. But thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you, and just wishing you all the best and all the love for the next book that you do. No more doubt.
No more doubt.
Mwah. Thank you for everything. Thank you for always inviting me to your spaces.
Oh, anytime,
Bye.
anytime. Thank you, Maya.